Tony, can I get you to come and grab seat 1, please? Okay, welcome, folks. Welcome on live stream. We had an interesting morning of technical issues. Unfortunately, not at our end. We had a server down over the sea somewhere, which affected the award system, and so we went through some manual stuff. The council are going to be working hard to get. They were recorded, the manual categories this morning, so they're going to be put up on the internet at some stage. So stay tuned for that. They'll let you know. But we are sitting in room 1 and we're going to move into the documentary category, proudly sponsored by the AIPP. Before I go through the category preamble, I might just get the judges to introduce themselves because there's a few people here I don't know. This is Steve Wise from Perth, WA, filling in while we get some other panel chairs in. So we might start with seat number 1, Mr. Tony Hewitt.
Tony Hewitt, commercial landscape, portrait and a bit of other things, and 25 plus years in the industry, current awards chair, or awards whatever something, APPA chair, there you go. Next.
Sorry, Tony, you're a Grand Master of Photography, I think?
Grand Master and Honorary Fellow, yeah.
Thank you. Matt Palmer from Tasmania, I think, isn't it? Matt, sorry.
Is this microphone on?
Yes, it is now.
There we go. Just moved down to Tasmania, Master of Photography, and some people might have known some of my work that came through Queensland in the documentary category, taking out that category 3 years running with some good sports work and a bit of music. Love shooting that kind of stuff in one of my favourite categories, so I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone's put in today.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you. Hilary Han, welcome.
Hello, I'm Hilary. I'm from South Australia. I've been a photographer for a long time, and I shoot wildlife, landscapes, people, provided they're sort of in where the wildlife are, let's put it that way. That type of stuff. And I have my first bar on my Masters, got that last year, very proud of it. And that's
fantastic.
About me.
Thanks, Hilary. Congratulations on your Masters, on your first bar. Mr. Simon Casson.
Hello, good morning. Afternoon. Simon Casson. I photograph commercial, sort of industrial and people stuff mainly. I think I've hit 25 years somehow. And I've got 3 of those gold things on the red thing. So
well done. Thank you, Simon. Quarter century. Well done. Simone, welcome.
Simone Hankel. I am the current South Australian slightly frazzled state president, and I photograph families in a documentary kind of fashion.
Brilliant.
I am an associate, so I have a couple of silver things on a yellow thing, and then that's that. So there you go.
Thank you, Simone. We can use this category to defrazzle you, and you can just concentrate on the stuff in front of you and forget about the rest of it. Thanks, guys. We have a few other judges out and waiting to come in. We'll get them to introduce themselves when they come on down the track. We might go through to. We'll have a listen to the category preamble for this category of documentary. If you can have a close listen. This category is for documentary, press, and birth photography, and I believe they're mixed in together. Entrants have been encouraged to provide a caption and or title with the submission to assist judges in understanding the content and context of the image. Judges in this category are asked to consider content, composition, impact and narrative quality. Entries into this category may be commissioned or self-commissioned. Photographs must be single capture images. Multiple single capture images may be presented as diptychs, triptychs, etc. The content of the image or images must not be altered. There can be no additions or deletions and no misleading the viewer by manipulation of the tonal and colour balance to disguise elements of an image or to change the content or context. There should be no attempt to deceive the viewer by misrepresenting reality or changing the image's content, context or meaning. Post-production is limited to minor adjustments such as spotting dust and scratches, dodging and burning and adjusting tonal and colour values. The elements or areas within the image cannot be removed or covered up, nor new elements added. Cropping the image is permitted, as is conversion to black and white. Composite images and photos with special effects, borders and added backgrounds are not permitted. All images must have been observed but not fabricated or created in any way by the photographer. The photographs must be unposed without the intervention of the photographer. If the photographer deliberately places an object in the frame and directs someone to stand or sit in a particular location or pose, this would be considered created and the image should be entered into another category. Wedding photos are eligible as long as they are truly found, not created. So these images have been validated, so they are in this category for a reason. Sorry, this category will be judged in 2 sections, documentary and birth. Apologies, I thought they were mixed in. Although the category is judged in 2 sections, to assist the judges in their assessment, there is only 1 award. Does that all make sense? Are we ready to go? Let's do it. I think we'll have the first print, please. Documentary. Unless someone's giving birth in that image, it's documentary. Just turn this off. My apologies, guys. There are captions with the documentary image. Everyone, or whether they've chosen to or not. The caption for this one is: the Semaphore Kite Festival 2018 attracts a variety of flyers and spectators, some more concerned with kites than others, while a young lifesaver keeps watch. Thank you, judges. We have a score of 77. Hilary, I might ask for a comment from you. Quick comment, if I may.
Thank you. Just a few things. It would be nice to see a little bit more interaction between the people, a few more faces, a little bit more expression. And I found the person on the left that sort of chopped off a little bit disconcerting.
Thanks, Hilary. Next print, please. Many Sami or Sami people of northern Sweden still rely on semi-nomadic reindeer herding for their livelihood. About 10% of the total Sami population are involved in herding, although this number is declining as competing interests such as mining, forestry and industry make it harder to manage the wide roaming herds. Thank you, folks. This print scores 83, Silver Award. Simon, may I ask for a quick comment from you, please?
Sure. Nothing but positive. Just love how everything just leads your eye around the whole image. The slant of the tree, the trough leading back into the tree, and the reindeers moving around. So yeah, well done.
Thanks, Simon. Before we move on to the next print, I'll just advise you that birth is mixed in with documentary, so they're not separate subcategories. So be prepared, yes. And look, if it's something you're not comfortable with, you're obviously welcome to step off, and we have some other birth photographers who might specialise more in that. So we'll have the next print, please. The caption reads, I asked him if he ever got homesick whilst he was away at Burden, as in birding. His reply was, no way. The islands were his home. Clay Maynard, spittin' the bird. Thank you, judges. This print scores 78. Tony, could I grab a quick comment on how this perhaps could be improved?
Well, it's a solid professional practice image, a little bit tight, and I'd like to see a little more detail in the bottom of the bird. It just goes into a deep black, and it kind of kills the story for me a little bit.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully the author is listening to this and can improve on that. We'll go to the next print, please. Caption: located on the Ubud battlefield, a new mosque sits central to the marketplace, capitalising on the event's historical significance. In 624 AD, hundreds of Muslims were killed and the Prophet badly injured after a group of archers abandoned their post on the hill from where this photograph was taken. Thank you, judges. We have a score of 80, silver award. Matt, do you mind making a comment about this?
The photographer's done really well in handling the tonality of the photograph, and there's a nice composition. In terms of the feedback and why I scored a little bit lower is I feel like the stage has been set, but the performance hasn't occurred yet. So it's just waiting in that spot and waiting for some sort of decisive action to happen.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matt. A few nods of agreement from your fellow judges. Next print, please. A bored North American timber wolf reclines on warm viewing glass at Asahiyama Zoo during winter on Hokkaido in Japan. Thank you, judges. We have a score of 81, silver award. Simon, may I have is there a comment you'd like to make at all on this? Or otherwise, is there anyone? Tony? Yeah, go for it. Unless you'd like to, Simon. Thank you.
I know we need descriptions, but I almost would have preferred not to have heard the description because I think it... Anyway. That's not how it rolls. Just that lighter area at the top there, by his chin coming back, I just found maybe that knocked back a little bit more, and also that top right area as well, and maybe the bottom edge.
Thank you, Simon.
Thanks.
We'll lock in that score and move to the next print, please. Homelessness in New York City has reached the highest levels since the Great Depression. The large majority of street homeless New Yorkers are people living with a mental illness or severe health problems, and African American and Latino New Yorkers are disproportionately affected. Thank you, folks. We have a score of 83, silver award. And Mr. Hewitt would like to challenge. Tony, you're sitting on 88. I'll let you know what you're working with here. We have a 79, an 81, 82 and an 83.
So documentary, first of all, really solid in-your-face composition. I love the large policeman with his back to us, almost blocking half the image, because it acts as that barrier between the observer, being the photographer, and the subject or the homeless guy. The fact that he's looking at us doesn't bother me because it's not created by the photographer, but it is an observation of the response of that subject, feeling like his space is being invaded. This is his privacy, which I find a really nice paradox because it's his privacy, but he's in a public park, he's in public view, everything about it's public, but to him, it's still his privacy. Very direct, a lot of impact in the eyes, the way the body language, the gesture of the hand pointing at us really drags you in, and yet we're reminded that we are not a direct participant in this action because we're behind the cop. So there's intrigue. What is the cop talking to him about? Something he's worried about. And everything sits really nicely framed, even the tree that's at the back, that dark tree on the top right, the branch coming over. Everything holds us in and brings us all the way into that face and that hand, and then it brings it straight back to us. We can't avoid it, and it asks questions of us. I find that lifts it above even the high level of professional practice and takes us up into a superior level of visual communication, craft and skill, which is why I gave it 88.
Thank you, Tony. Matt Palmer, you're at the other end, just below silver. Can I hear from you, please?
Yeah. Hang on.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard act to follow, that comment, but I'm definitely listening. There's perhaps, if the two subjects weren't overlapping and there was just a touch of space in between them, and also I felt like the photographer could have brought slightly more to the photograph in terms of composition and things like that. But I've been swayed by the argument thus far.
Okay, Hilary, I want to hear from you. You're sitting right on the average at the moment.
I agree with everything Tony said. I perhaps just didn't rate it into the next category, into the silver distinction, but I think it's a really fine documentary photograph. I'm wavering if anyone has something further to add.
Thanks, Hilary. Continue wavering. We might go back to Tony for his right of reply. Thanks.
Yeah, look, I find this is a very difficult genre for somebody, when looking for excellence and imagination, and yet by definition we say you're not supposed to, have some effect, looking for the photographer's involvement. If we separate the characters, if the policeman was to the left and there was more of a gap, we become a third party to a triangle. The fact that there's an overlap and we're almost peering around helps reinforce that this is a documentation of something that we shouldn't be part of. And yet we see this subject, this homeless man's offence or resistance to the fact that he has no privacy. So I see these stories rolling around about our society. It's all been put together in a very simple composition, a very simple print. It's not complicated in any way. It's very easy to see what it's all about. And yet there's all this little information sprinkled around that image, which gives us a little bit more context as to who he is, where he is, etc., etc. So for those reasons, I think if it was just a photograph of nicely printed, nicely composed, a homeless guy, we might be looking at an 81, 82. But I think there's a moment captured here, which is that split moment where the guy's going, what are you looking at me? This is my space. I don't want people knowing about what I'm doing. It's private, and yet he's not. So I'm asking us to reward the position of the photographer in the way he's told the story without interfering, and yet without wanting to, he's become a part of what this story is about. Or her, I should say, or her.
Thank you, Tony. If you hold your score at 88, it's currently sitting on 83, folks, so if you'd like to rescore. '86, silver distinction. Great discussion, guys. We'll lock that in, and next print, please. Stepping out from another era, a busboy takes a break on 2nd Avenue, New York. Thank you, judges. This print scores 81, silver award. Simon, may I ask for a comment from you, please?
the standout for me is the composition. I just love all those straight lines and the positioning of the subject, and yeah, it's got a beautiful feel. Once again, that top right little corner, knock it down a little bit.
Thank you, Simon. Next print, please. Caption. Workers at a small yard near Hoi An in Vietnam repair aging fishing boats. The working day is long and safety standards are not considered. Thank you, judges. This print scores an 80 Silver Award. Tony, I might get a quick comment from you, please.
Yeah, I think maybe just a little bit of a rethink on the composition could have strengthened it. Not so much the placement of the guy between the blowtorch and the ship, but just the outside's just a little bit tight. If it opened up and given a bit of breathing space, it could be stronger.
Thank you, Tony. We'll accept that score. And next print, please. Daybreak at the Prophet's Mosque, Medina. After dawn prayer, there is a strong tradition of worshippers staying to offer voluntary prayers or to instruct groups of children in understanding the holy texts. Thank you, folks. This print scores 78. Simone, I might ask for a comment from you, please.
I thought the colour tones and everything in this were really stunning and had that really rich effect to show you what the heritage of this story is. But I found the tilt and the crop just a little bit too heavy. I felt like we needed some more air around them and for it all just to be a little bit more upright.
Thank you, Simone. We'll lock that in and we'll go to the next print, please. My apologies, guys. The caption. A cutter at Katz's Deli enjoys rapid banter with his customers during a typically busy lunch service. A kosher-style deli located on the lower east side of New York City, Katz's is famous for pastrami, serving 6,800 kilograms of the meat each week. That's a lot of meat. Thank you, judges. This print scores 78. Yep. Simone, you'd like to challenge. Well done. You're sitting on 84 at the moment. Just to let you know, you're working with a 75, 77 and 278. So go for it.
That's interesting because when it came around, the story was evident before I heard the caption, which I thought is remarkable in documentary photography, to have no other evidence really, other than that this man's a very popular delicatessen kind of feel. I would have gone up even further if the tones had been better. I think it's a little bit flatter, but other than that, I really enjoy the story of this. I feel like that convergence he enjoys, and you can see it in his face. He's really enjoying the busyness of his own business.
Thank you, Simone. Matt, you're down at the other end.
Yeah, I think it's a good professional photograph. If I were sent to photograph an event or somewhere serving food, this is the kind of photograph that I'd expect to capture, and I'm sure it would be great for Katz's Deli. It's just I need a bit more from it, a bit more of a moment to raise it into that award standard.
Okay, thank you. Hillary, you're sitting on 78. What were your thoughts?
I thought much the same as Matt. There just wasn't enough interaction. I mean, he's the central figure. It's a lovely photo of him in his work environment, but I don't find much more than that.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Simone, we might go back to you for your right of reply.
See, I think the thing about documentary photography for me is that you're learning something about the people that you're photographing. And I learnt something about this man. He enjoys his work. It's extremely busy. It probably is because he's a happy individual. And if I was the business wanting this kind of photograph of my business, this is what I'd want to portray it with. So to me, that deserves a silver. I think that's really important. We consider that the story is still there. What they're trying to present is relevant to the business, and I think it should come up to a silver.
Thank you, Simone. Hold your score. It's locked in at 84, and we'll get the rest of the judges to rescore, please. And it's jumped up 1 point to 79, so every point counts. Thanks for that challenge, and I might give you a bit of a rest now, if that's okay. Yeah. Victoria, would you like to step in onto chair number 5, please? Thank you. Welcome, Victoria. Would you like to introduce yourself to the crew out listening on live stream?
Hi, I'm Victoria Burke-Murray. I'm a documentary photographer from South Australia.
Brilliant.
Got a red ribbon with one of those things.
You have.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a little thing on their ribbon. Brilliant. We'll get a bit more specific down the track on those. We'll go to the next print, please. The caption for this one, guys. Overcome with emotion. After an unfavourable cancer diagnosis and without his knowledge, Paul's friends started a Facebook fundraiser and raised $25,000 to fulfil his dreams of owning a 1967 Impala. They raised enough to buy the car and restore it. At a surprise function, the Impala was gifted to Paul. Thank you, judges. This print, whilst it scored an average of 80, actually scores 79 by a majority. But all very, very even scoring. I might grab a comment. Oh, Victoria, you've just popped on. Would you like to make a comment on this one, please?
Obviously a well-timed, well-captured image. I think compositionally there could have been some refinements just to draw that focus in even tighter to take you right into that story.
Excellent, thanks, Victoria. And just for those out there who aren't sure how it works, at APPA that would go to the next room at 79, as would 84s and 89s and 94s. But at state, it's locked in at 79. So, next print, please. The caption reads, "Fresh back from hunting birds, Juka Heart." Thank you, judges. This print scores 77. Tony, quick comment, please.
Yeah, given the context of the narrative or the description, I don't see enough. I mean, it's a professional practice photograph. I didn't see enough of that narrative within the picture that's in front of us, and that branch running behind him is possibly a little distracting.
Thanks, Tony. We'll lock that score in and go to the next print, please. The Caption reads, Kangaroo Creek Dam in preparation for major upgrades in March 2018 with drained dam and exposed multi-tier rock face contrasting... Sorry guys. With drained dam and exposed multi-tier rock face contrasting surrounding bushland. Shot on medium format 6x6 black and white film highlighting texture and detail. Thank you, folks. This print scores a majority 79, and Tony would like to challenge that. Tony is sitting on 86 in the silver distinction range. We have 76 and two 77s and an 82 to work with, Tony, so all yours.
In terms of a documentary image, I think this is brilliant. You know, this is the sort of image that in 50 years' time they'll want to have hanging in the boardroom of some corporation that was involved in this project. Within that single image, we're getting to see all the different facets of construction, destruction, the interface between man's construction and the land. The top of the picture where we see that sort of hill shape, which reminds us that nature sort of started with nature, and nature's still trying to hold on, the trees, etc. Lookouts up there. And then as you come down, you can see the various structural and textural layers, which give us an indication as to how they've created this hole in the ground, how they've reinforced it, the different types of blow, the channels of where they've done blast, etc. Then we get down the bottom, we're looking at the guts of how they're creating the foundation to this dam. We've got raw rock on the bottom left, which kind of gives an indication of some of the raw materials that are used to create this. On the left, we get some indication of the type of design elements in a dam to create strength. We can see the structural integrity through that pipe work and reinforcement of steel, etc., etc. So as I look at this picture, I see from white to black, I'm seeing all of these various elements which all come together to, in 5 years' time, we're going to be perhaps seeing water or something over the top of it. I don't even know if I'm looking at, I think you said a drained dam or something like that. It was drained?
Yep,
drained. So it tells me that this part of this is underwater eventually. And I'm just looking at this as a fantastic documentation of the process through which this whole project has to go to give us the end product from start to finish. And I think that's really clever to get in a very simple single capture, which has been printed very well, exposed very well, great tonal range, great detail, everything's there. That's excellent documentation of that project.
Thank you, Tony. Simon, you're sitting on 77.
Thank you. My first initial thought is I would love to see this printed down just a little bit overall. There's some glitch of some sort top left in the sky there. I'm not sure if that can be attended to in the under the rules of the category. Can you see that, guys? That sort of really stood out to me.
Thank you, Simon. Victoria, you're sitting on 82 in the silver range. You'd like to offer it some support?
I would actually, for all the same reasons that Tony has said. I have books at home with these sort of images, and I love them because for their documentary context, for their moment in time, and in the context of this image, Adelaide Hills are the oldest mountain range in Australia, I believe, and you're seeing all of that strata. It's so interesting. The textures are beautiful. It speaks a lot. I didn't even notice that blemish in the top left because I was so immersed in all of the detail that's going on within this image, which is why I'm going to come up a little bit more.
Thank you, Victoria. Tony, we might offer you your right of reply, please.
Yeah, the blemish, which I'm not sure, it's hard to describe what it is. it doesn't really bother me. I think if this had been printed down, you might notice it even more. So perhaps that's something. But those are probably the reasons why I wouldn't go higher. But I do think it's above, and it sits nicely in that pocket of superior visual communication, imagination, craft, etc. And I think in printing it down, what we would start to do is start to bring a closer, the white rock face and the dark shadowy areas down the bottom will start to get the same level into the same bracket of tonality. And I love the separation that white rock face is the interaction or the interface, if you like, the no-fly zone between nature and where man has made a firm stance. And at the bottom, very solidly created. In the middle, it's a mixture of what man's done, but the rock was already there. And right at the top is nature and the trees. So I can see that connection, and I think the tonal range we've been given is actually pretty close to the right one. So I'm asking you guys to consider this as not only worthy of an award, but a little bit above a standard award. I think it does demonstrate superior communication for those reasons.
Thank you, Tony. If you'd like to hold your score at 86, we'll ask the rest of the judges to rescore, please. Okay, this print was sitting on 79. It's now an 83, a very strong silver award. Great discussion, judges. Matt, would you like to take a break? Thanks for your work on there. Terry, I might invite you up, Terry Hahn. And maybe just a quick introduction to those out in live stream land that don't know who you are.
Terry Hahn, South Australia. I joined the IAPP back in 1982, 2 points off my Masters.
Brilliant. Not for long though, right?
Not for long, this year.
Excellent. Okay, we'll accept that score of 83 and move to the next print, please. The caption for this one: the Kaaba is the focal point of Islam. 1.6 billion Muslims face this structure 5 times each day, offering their prayers. During the ritual pilgrimage Hajj, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, worshippers raise... Sorry? Hajj? Hajj, worshippers raise their hands to this corner and offer thanks to God as they count the 7 times they circle the holy structure. I'll read that again, but yeah, thanks, Victoria. Simone, if you could step on for Victoria. Sorry, guys, I'll read that again, please. The Kaaba, or the Kaaba, is the focal point of Islam. 1.6 billion Muslims face this structure 5 times each day, offering their prayers. During the ritual pilgrimage Hajj, worshippers raise their hands to this corner and offer thanks to God as they count the 7 times they circle the holy structure. Thank you, judges. This print scores 81, silver award. I think Simone, while you're up, I might just get a quick comment from you and perhaps how this could go higher.
I really enjoyed this for what I really loved was the 2 hands in the front. To me, that made the photograph altogether. And I think to take it to Apple, what I would do is come in from the sides. I don't think we need as much information on the sides as we have, and make that structure in the middle something quite dominant with those 2 hands, really strong.
Thank you, Simone. Next print, please. Simone. Caption for this: 2 strangers from different walks of life enjoy feeding the birds on a hot summer day in Washington Square, New York City. Thank you, judges. This print scores 82, silver award. Hillary, could I grab a comment from you? You're sitting right on the average, unless you know. Would anyone like to make a comment? I'll open it up. Thanks, Tony.
Good solid documentary image. Love the guy on the left's shoes or whatever's left of them. So there's lots of interesting detail. The composition is very strong and it's really well printed as well.
Thank you. We'll accept that. Next print, please. The caption reads, "Loading the spit, bringing them home. Nathan Maynard." Thank you, judges. Pretty even across the board. This print scores 78. Hillary, can I call on you for this one, please?
You can try. Yeah, I think it documents what they said it documents. I mean, it's but I just find the colours a bit distracting. I don't know whether if it was a black and white and with more detail could be extracted, whether it would be more powerful. And with the eyes closed, maybe if there was a different frame with a better expression on the face, I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks. Valuable comments. We'll accept that and we'll go to the next print, please. New York City is home to the largest concentration of Jews in the USA. Because of their high birth rate, these Hasidic and other ultra-Orthodox Jews represent the fastest growing subset, causing tension with other migrant communities as they seek to establish a larger footprint in suburbs outside the city. Thank you, judges. This print scores 78. Terry, could you offer a comment for this photographer, please?
It's beautifully printed. It's got lovely tonings, but it's just a guy standing in the doorway of the train. It would have been nice to have had an interaction or something happening. And the comments said how they were trying to get a larger footprint and people were against them or something. I forget the exact wording, but it doesn't show that in the image.
Okay, thank you. We'll accept that score and we'll move to the next print, please. Next print, please. Okay, caption for this one. Helicopter performs dangerous manoeuvres stringing power cable through new towers in Coburn, South Australia, along the Barrier Highway. Thank you, judges. 83, Silver Award. Simon, could I grab a quick comment from you, please?
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, I do love this, but how I would love to have seen that vehicle on the left 1 inch further to the right.
Thank you. We'll accept that and go to the next print, please. Princess Leia completes the last stage of her transformation from Luke to Leia as she dons her shoes in her dressing room before heading out on the town to perform. Thank you, judges. This print scores 83, Strong Silver Award. Tony, could you offer a quick comment on this one, please?
Yeah, great descriptive black and white image that supports the narrative or the description that you gave us. The vantage point of getting down a bit lower makes the shoulders of the subject look bigger. She certainly has a masculine feel to her, which completes the story, and yet there's enough there to tell us, you know, the rest of the story, that it's a he to a she. So, yeah, well done.
Thank you. We'll accept that and move to the next print, please. Thanks. Simone, could I get you to step on? Okay, guys, the caption for this: a migrant worker prayer... Let's start again. A migrant worker prays by himself on the other side of the gates to the Grand Mosque in Mecca, while inside around 90,000 people pray in congregation, class, structure and the rights... Sorry. All right. No, I'm going to start again. A migrant worker prays by himself on the other side of the gate to the Grand Mosque in Mecca, while inside around 90,000 people pray in congregation. Class structure and the rights of workers in Saudi Arabia can be visually confronting even in the most holy site in Islam. Thank you, judges. This print scores 84. And Tony, you'd like to challenge. Tony is sitting on 91 up in gold, guys. Before he hit his button, we had straight 82s, Tony, so
Okay.
It's all yours.
So we're in a documentary category, and we've had a description. I found this image had impact before I heard the description. I was torn between, is it a worker who's bent down and been caught in the wrong position, and, you know, maybe a disrespectful photograph of somebody, or is it something more than that? And I was obviously looking at the gates. I'm thinking, is this reflective of the Islam religion, and does it start to talk about class distinction and who's allowed in and who's allowed out, which is common to a lot of religions. Then we heard the description, which supported that image in every way. I like the fact that there's this promise of the promised land on the other side of the gates, the gold, the riches that provides. When you look at that sort of whole gate and shut off area, it's glowing with all of these, you know, possibilities of what if. And on the outside of where our character is, it's all just grey. There's no colour. It's all devoid of any vibrancy apart from what he's wearing. He's even got a gold hat. So it's like he's doing everything he possibly can to be part of this world, but the gates are shut. But he will continue to be devoted. Now, I apologise if my comments are disrespectful to the Islamic religion, but that's such a strong narrative. Then I look at the compositional elements of this picture, the bottom right-hand steps coming in and the angle. We see the boots on the way up, that he's even taken his boots off as a sign of respect. On the left, the bottom corner where the gates come across, everything leads us to this one point where at this point in time, this person is devoted and committed to their beliefs, and yet they're still on the outside. I find that such a powerful story when we talk about documentary in a category where it's not about fancy textures and it's not about vivid colours, it's about story. And this is an incredibly powerful story with an incredibly simple picture. And it is a category or a genre where we do look at the descriptions to say, how does this image support a story? This is brilliant. This really supports a story, and in such a simple way has an incredible amount of impact that makes you stop and think. And that's why I'm asking us to consider not just an award, but let's look at outstanding visual communication, interpretation, and emotional impact, because I believe they're all there in a very, very high level, and we need to recognise that.
Thank you, Tony. Terry, would you like to make a comment? Everyone's sitting on 82, guys, so we'll go across the board, I think.
Well, on behalf of the first 82ers, yes, I do agree with everything Tony has said, and I guess I wasn't brave enough to come up higher than I did. So I think I'll be rescoring higher.
Thank you, Terry. I'm probably going to ask for a quick comment from everyone, considering we're talking, give this print some respect, we're talking about trying to move up into gold. Thanks, Hillary.
Tony's very persuasive, we all know that. However, I didn't get an emotional connection with it. I love the photograph. I know I'm not supposed to say I love it, but it's a beautiful photograph, and it's well seen. I didn't feel, I would have liked to have felt emotionally connected to this man being on the outer, and I didn't get that connection. I figure if I was a Muslim, I would pray wherever it was suitable to pray. I don't think I made the whole big story about him on the outer, people on the inner, because I think if you are religious, you sort of accept your position in life, or otherwise you'd all be fighting to gain a better deal out of your religion, and I don't see that particularly often. However, I like the story you created around it, Tony. I think that's really nice. I get, he just looks pretty polished. If he was covered in grease and looked a bit dishevelled and really on the outer, I would have probably been more emotionally connected, is what I'm trying to say. But I am listening to what you're saying. I'm not sure about the gold bit yet, if any of that made sense.
That's all right. It's all valid, Hillary. Thank you. Simone or Simon? Simon, go for it.
Thanks. Thanks, Tony. I can acknowledge what you're saying, and I'll definitely be moving up. Not sure into gold, but yeah, moving up.
Go for it, Simone.
I agree. I found the story very moving as well, and had kind of picked it before the caption. But I think the things that bothered me and probably were a bit silly were just the little elements around the frame that kept taking my eye. Those sort of black pieces that I wanted it to be very strong graphically to be able to go up even further. And I feel like I'm distracted a little bit from that amazing story. It's there. But if it goes to AIPP, I'd really like to see those bits perhaps cropped out or something to see how much more impactful it can be.
Thank you, Simone. The 82s have spoken, Tony. You're right of reply.
Yeah, I might be incorrect because I think Hillary questioned or asked about the story I created, but I'm pretty sure everything I said was in the description. So we don't need to read that.
No.
So that's what I said. I sort of got all that, and then I heard the description. That doesn't happen very often, that the description almost word for word was what I'd read into the photograph, which straight away tells me it's a very powerful piece of communication. The polish of the character, I think that's just reflective of that society. You don't go into the marbles outside the Grand Mosque in grease and mud. There's a level of respect. One of the things I like about the simplicity is there's a respectful distance that the viewer or the photographer has kept. And even though we know they're intruding, They've done it in a way that doesn't feel intrusive. It's just giving us a look into this disparity between what's on the other side of those gates, and the fact that that strong gold, that choice of composition, gives us both sides without us even being able to see what's on the inside. We've been told, but the gold and that richness that it provides and the offer that it's got is such a contrast to the greys. Now, I gave 91. Now, if this had the eloquent printing and all of the finessing that could be done, I would have gone a lot higher, because for me, when I look at that gold, it's asking for outstanding visual communication and interpretation. There's so many ways this could have been photographed that it just would have been a guy praying. And I agree with you. They pray where they have to pray. But the choice of perspective to put him off in the back corner, to allow those leading lines to still take us to him, to make him look so small and insignificant against these massive gates, and yet he's still dedicated and devoted. I think all of those things come together to give us the strength of emotional impact that we're looking for as well. So they're the reasons I went to 91. And print technique, I could have seen this going high, because the hardest pictures of all are to take pictures that are immensely simple and yet a very simple, strong, powerful connection to the viewer in terms of what it's trying to tell you, and to link it up with the description for this category is why I've asked us to consider this at a much higher level than silver and go into gold. So we've all had a chance to think about it. We'll just see where we go. That's what I would like to see.
And we'll see what we see. Thanks, Tony. If you'd leave your score on 91, it's currently sitting on 84, guys. So if you'd like to rescore. This print has an average of 89, but it actually scores a majority 90. Gold award. Those in live stream land couldn't see Tony's face when I read out 89 then, but he was very happy when it came to 90. So congratulations. Great discussion, guys. That's a gold award. Excellent. Let's reset. And thanks, Simone. We'll get Victoria back on, and we'll go to the next print, please. The caption for this one, folks. The Eula muttonbird season takes place throughout the Furneaux Islands yearly in the month of April. The islands are inhabited by tiger snakes, which can be found in the burrows of these birds. Though often dangerous, muttonbirding plays a pivotal part in Palawa culture. Aaron Everett. Thank you, judges. Very consistent scoring. This print scores a 78. Victoria, could I ask for a comment from you, please?
The composition's really complementary. I'm pulled down by the skin tone and the colours in general.
Thank you. Can we have a blank screen, please? Thanks, guys. That's the documentary category. Well done. Proudly sponsored by the AIPP. That was what's the documentary? Was AIPP? Yep. We'll have a bit of a break. I think the judges need to stay close, and we'll move on to the next category very soon. Thanks, folks. Yeah, we've got time for a break.